nations. And the Saanich peoples represented by the Startlip, Pukatjewin, Sayal, Seacom, and Malahat nations. We acknowledge that the district of Saanich lies within the territories of the Rohingya peoples represented by, oh, I see. Okay, I was about to repeat the same piece again. Thank you. Let's go to our agenda, the first item of which is to welcome our new board members. So Shirley Namey and Jacqueline, very welcome. Would you like to say a brief greeting for the board? Shirley, should we start with you, please?
Sure, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. It's a great honor and privilege to be able to sit amongst everyone here and hold space and share in the work ahead. I very much feel very honored and privileged to be a part of this board and look forward to not only our future conversations but the current work that's already been going on well in advance to me joining. And I look forward to not only learning with you, but also exploring and navigating as we move forward together as a collective. And I'm really here to actively listen and bring forward, hopefully, not only some context with an Indigenous lens, but also just looking at how do we start to navigate to best support the Saanich community and the people that we serve. And so I just want to say thank you, and it is a great honor to be with you here today.
Thank you, Shelley. Jacqueline, can we hear from you, and then we'll all chime in?
Sure. Hello, good afternoon. You can all hear me as well? I hope. Good. Well, my gosh, to echo what Shelley just said, minus the Indigenous lens, which I will substitute with just a background in women's studies and women's work and legal stuff and social work. So I'm super excited to be here. Actually, I'm thrilled on so many levels. Hopefully I have a lot to offer and will be an asset. And I also actually look forward to a lot of learning as well. So I'm relatively new to Saanich, but have worked in and out with police forces, gosh, well, probably my whole career. Anyhow, really happy to be here and good afternoon. So thank you and thank you.
Well, for both of you, your resumes speak volumes, and we're just delighted to have you join the board and all the additional skill sets and perspectives you bring. But I'll go around the board. I'll go ladies first, Mary, then Linda. Okay, Mary, would you like to welcome our new members? Mary, you're muted.
I know, just it takes a minute to get off. Thanks very much, Fred. And I certainly welcome Jacqueline. We've had the chance already to meet on the HR committee, and Shelley, we're really looking forward to having your involvement and your experience and your voices at our table. I've been on the Saanich Police Board now for 4.5 years, following 6 years on the Vancouver Police Board. And I've also been active in the BC Association of Police Boards, still on their governing board, and I served 2 years as president. So lots of interest, and I now serve as chair of the HR committee, and whatever I can do to be helpful to you, please let me know. Again, welcome.
Thank you. Linda?
Well, welcome, Jackie and Shelley. Hopefully you can hear me. Technology, I seem to be freezing a bit, so I apologize. You know, that's just how it goes. I'm the chair of the governance committee, and I serve with Glenn on the finance committee. So we'll likely have a lot to do with each other initially. I've got some board training things for you to set up, and I'm the newest member of the board. I've been on now for 2.5 years, so that's relatively new for me. I'm a forensic lawyer by training. That's what I do for a living, and still working part-time. Lots of charity work, lots of other work, and happy to be with you and looking forward to working with you girls. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Glenn, would you like to welcome the new board members?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have 2 new board members, and I look forward to working with both of you. I chair the Finance Committee. I am a chartered accountant by background, about 35 years in public practice before I went on and have been doing some other things. It is a very interesting world of finance when we get to the police department. I look forward to helping to explain some of it to you and how we operate from a financial perspective. So welcome to you both.
Thank you, Glenn. Barman, would you like to welcome our new board members?
Yeah, sounds good. Welcome to Jacqueline and Shelley. Nice to finally see you there. And I've been with the board for how much? 8 months and moving on to 9 months. So I'm still in a steep learning curve. And it's an excellent group of people to work with and excellent police department to work with. So you'll enjoy your tenure here and I welcome you.
Thank you, Barwin. So, Scott, I'll come to you for the department leadership team. Would you like to come in on that and do some introductions?
Yes, just briefly, I want to thank you both. And very impressive resumes, and I know you're both going to be a great addition to the board. This board has been very supportive of the police department, worked very closely with us, and we've been just so fortunate to have such committed board members. And I know that you two coming on side as well is just going to enhance what's already there. And also knowing that it's a big commitment of which there is no compensation, and the level of engagement that this board has for unpaid volunteers is just amazing. So sometimes it's careful what you wish for because it is a significant commitment, but thank you so much and looking forward to working with you both.
So, Scott, did you want to introduce your team briefly or on as we go forward?
Sure. So I have Deputy Chief Gary Schenk, who's part of the meeting today, is in charge of operations. And I have Deputy Chief Dean Duthie, who is in charge of the administrative portfolio. So each of the deputies are responsible for the oversight of 3 divisions. Gary is responsible for the detective division, of which the inspector in charge is Steve Morgan. He's also in charge of the patrol division. The inspector in charge of is Rob Warren. And he's also in charge of the community engagement division. The inspector in charge is Todd Bryant, who unfortunately will only be with us a couple of more months, and then he'll be done and going to retirement in June and replaced by Staff Sergeant Stephanie Edwards. Dean oversees the administration division, which the OIC is Inspector Daryl Harris. Dean also oversees professional standards. The OIC officer in charge of that is Inspector Trevor Dick. And Dean also oversees the staff development division, which is run by Inspector Paul Douglas. So we've got a great team. We work very well together, and working with this board, we've accomplished a lot over this last year and a bit.
Thank you. What about the civilian staff? I see a couple of civilians there, Joe and others, and Nita.
Yeah, then Miss Joanne Coe, who's our manager of executive services. She's also an accountant, so she looks after our exempt civilian staff in the chief's office, as well as all the finance part, working with the finance committee. Anita Demideros is our newest member of the exempt group, and she is the administrative assistant to working directly with the police board, having taken over from Miss Lynn George, who is not part of the meeting right now, but was the previous administrative support. Also in our office, we have Miss Lorna McKinty, who doesn't participate in these calls, but she's part of our exempt staff in the office of the chief constable, as well as Miss Carrie Tuggle, who looks after basically, I guess, Gary and myself and Dean. And she looks after everything kind of coming into the chief's office, but doesn't participate in these particular meetings.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. So it's a very fun group to work with. That's a brief introduction. You'll get to know us more, of course, as we go forward. Something we want to do as a board as well is have a sort of an informal evening together, which we'll chat about later, just to get to meet each other. But the next item is the approval of the agenda. And Jacqueline and Shelley, your trial by fire today. This is a very busy agenda. And actually, you give a bit of an apology. I was loading up a lot of material that I was getting collected for other purposes, and it came onto the agenda. So I pulled off some of that reading, but it gives you a sense of the depth behind some of these files. So the first item would be, please, from the board, approval of the agenda for April 6th. Moved by Linda, second by Mary. Any changes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any vote against? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Thank you. Next would be the adoption of the minutes. Now, Shelley and Jackie, because you were not here, I'll recuse you from this vote. But board members who were there, can we have your thoughts on the minutes? Any changes or corrections? If not, I see a motion from Linda. Second from Mary. Motion to approve. Any opposed? Thank you, Barwan. Thank you, Glenn. Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Correspondence. This is something from me. We see the first letter there, and I'm juggling between screens. 1 second, please. A very interesting letter, and it's something that we're quite aware of, but it has two parts to it. And I'll just mention that pursuant to section 26(4)-4.1 of the BC Police Act, the municipal police boards, that's us, are required to take into account municipal council priorities and priorities, goals and objectives of the policing, law and enforcement, etc. The rest of the letter is germane. So on that, there is a survey action required at the end of this, which I'll come to the board members, but I'll just mention this. What we've been able to work on this past 2 years is making sure that the Saanich Council are informed to the best of our abilities of the work going on at the police board and the police department. And there's a weekly bulletin, that goes out to all members of council. And through the month, we try to update council on actions that the police department takes so they can see the work as it goes forward. So I'm quite pleased about that, and the board is as well. And it's helped council get a better sense of the type of work underway in many of the important files, from racism, community engagement, sexual assault, and the other great works. And in fact, the amazing letters of support we get from the residents of Saanich for our department. So that's one piece. But Mary, I'll come to you for the survey. Could you pick up on that, please? The survey piece that needs to be completed by May 14th.
And I guess the question is, who is going to complete that? Ordinarily, there's some background noise somewhere. Okay, great, thank you. Ordinarily, I would expect that maybe, the board's administrator would be able to do it, but I'm not sure. Anita being so new, that might be difficult for her to be able to do it. So my other thought was maybe Linda and I can do it together. And because it's only looking at the municipal priorities. You recall last year we did a very extensive letter to the province regarding how the police board takes into account the minister's priorities, and that might be something worth sharing with our new members. But this is particularly around the council priorities. So perhaps Linda and I could have a look at it, and I think we'll want to obviously talk to you since you're the council person here.
Thank you. Linda, could you come in on this, please?
Yes, I was just going to suggest that it likely, I could actually spearhead it for two reasons. A, it's a strategic planning and governance committee issue, and I'm the municipal representative to the board. So I forgot to mention that to Shelley and to Jacqueline. There are, we're all appointed by the provincial government, but I'm actually appointed and approved by the municipal council as well as their representative. So it might be something that, I can work with Mary and others,
Sure.
but I can do an initial run at it.
Very good.
That'd be great.
But Shelley and Jacqueline, this is this first letter is very important in terms of scoping our work. Do you have any questions about it? Because the original Peel principle is the community is the police is the community, one of the 10 principles, and this talks to that, if you have any questions. Okay,
I don't, Shelley, if you do, go ahead. I don't.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then, so Linda and Mary, you could work something up, circulate it to the board, and then we'll get that ready for May 14th. I guess before May 14th, we'll have another board meeting. It will come to the board and we're ratified by the board.
Yeah, we'll just have to go ahead and do it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay then. So next item is the wellness checks. I'm going to go to Chief for that. We see the letter there. I'll introduce it, Chief, but would you like to talk to that, please? The letter from PSSG on wellness checks. Or is that a board HR piece?
No, it's really a departmental issue. I would expect Scott to prepare that reply.
I see you, Linda. Let's let Scott. Okay, Linda first. Yeah, I see you, Linda.
We had some of the work was done before Scott was the chief in February of 2019. Chief Downey did an FOI request that dealt with street checks and gave us a report. And it may be that report from that FOI request could help Scott get a handle on it. But Scott, have you seen that FOI request in the street check issue?
I'm familiar with what you're talking about, but this is, I don't know why we've got such terrible feedback in that going on here.
I can't hear anything.
I'm not too impressed with this platform that we're using, but anyways, no, this is something we would put through Dean's division through professional standards to do the research or administration for the FOI side and report back on our policies and so on.
Does that satisfy? So we'd have it back at the next meeting. I see Gary's muted all his pieces at his end, so it's probably Gary Schenk making all that noise. Okay.
So, sorry, Fred, the only problem is they're asking for it by April 16th, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is April 16th. So what's our approach, board, please?
Well, if Scott, you can have something circulated and just circulate it to us before the 16th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just take these under advisements. We won't need to take motions on them. Letter from the Bcapb for the new president. This is very interesting because we have 2 new board members and a new president. The letter speaks to itself. Carla Huber is an amazing lady. I don't know if Shelley, you know her, or Jacqueline, but she's a frequent columnist in the paper, but she's also on the Victoria Police Board. Mary, would you like to talk to this piece?
Well, this is just sort of a routine letter advising us of the new executive that was confirmed at the AGM in March. So, I mean, there's nothing we don't have to take any action on it.
No, we send I think the idea was to send a congratulations letter. Linda, too.
Yes, that was what I understood from your email, Mr. Mayor, was whether we were going to send a letter of congratulations to Ms. Huber and the others.
Would you like to draft one up for us, Linda, please?
Or I could do that. That's BCAPB business,
Hey,
which I do. I'm the liaison to that. Yeah.
Good catch, Mary. Thank you for that. So, okay then. So we'll have a thank you letter come by and off it would go. Should we sign it, put all our names on it individually? I think that'd be a nice gesture, Mary. Is that appropriate under your structure?
Sure. We'll just put our names on it, yeah.
We have 2 new board members. It's a good way of introducing. Maybe mention in the letter that we have the 2 new board members. Okay, next item, new business arising. I'm not seeing much there, which brings us to item 6. The divisional update, is that continuing as it is there, Scott, or was there a change on that note?
So if Trevor wants, he can just comment briefly on the draft annual report, but I am going to be bringing that up on the in-camera. It's not ready for release, but Trevor could just comment briefly on that and what's gone into it and what to expect if you want to, Trevor.
Sure. So one of the our work plan initiatives was to produce an annual report, which we haven't put out for a number of years. So we have used a lot of the talent within our department. We have Miss Natalie Mainville, who works up in the record section, is a graphic artist and she volunteered to come work with us. And one of our animal control officers, Mr. Derek Reese, is a photographer. And so he did a lot of the photography work. And along with Eno Stravapoulou, one of the research analysts, they put together the material for a report, annual report, which we'll see a draft copy of later today. And we're looking forward to the final approval, hopefully within the next week or two, and be able to have that up on the website.
Okay, thank you then. So does that close it off, Scott, for you from your side? Yep.
Yeah, and just thanking our staff, and Trevor's done the oversight for that and worked with Dean. So they've put a lot of work into it and looked at a lot of other annual work plan or a lot of annual reports. So this is just our first. It's basically ready to go. We have to fine tune it a bit, but I just want to have the board see it in the in camera before we release it. We would hope to release it in the next week or so.
Thank you. For the new board members, what you'll see is that the last 18 months, there's been quite a change as the leadership team has gone stem to stern through the department and brought in a large number of initiatives. And as time goes by, you'll get to hear about them, but I suspect we'll see a glimpse of them in this report. Next item. So finance, Glenn and Linda, please. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's nothing to report under the finance. We will see a draft report in camera of where we think the year end will end up, but the audit is still going on across at the municipal hall. For our two new members, the accounting in-depth record keeping is done at the municipal hall, and then we have to bring that into our records to see where things are at, and it's quite a process over the year end, and that's underway right now.
Linda, did you want to say something? No. So just briefly then, from my side as the chair, the Saanich budget is underway. The police request is in. It met with positive feedback from council. I gather that we do our final ratification May 2nd. We have April the 13th and April the 20th, another 2 touch points for the budget. But as far as I can see, the current request from the department is going forward. 7.2, governance and strategic planning. Linda, would you like to lead us through this, please?
Sure. Hopefully it doesn't cause too much issues. I think I'm the cause of feedback for some reason or another. Just a couple of things. We usually have new board members appointed to committees. I don't know if you've had a chance to do that yet. That's my question for you, Mr. Mayor. Have you had a chance to talk to the new board members about their committees?
Jacqueline was interested in one. Speak for himself. Jacqueline, would you like to speak to that? Speak for yourselves.
Yes, hi, good afternoon again. Yes, very interested in the HR committee, and there was a meeting last week. But of course, happy to be part of anything else that I'm going to be reaching out and touching base with a few of you to just to acquaint myself further. This COVID doesn't help, but anyway, the HR committee for now, definitely. Thank you.
And then we'll go to Shelley, and then we'll come to the chair of HR. Shelley.
Sure, thank you. So my interests really lie, and I think where I can be of most assistance is probably around strategic planning, policy, and governance. I have a very big interest and been spending the last about 12 years of my career inside that lens. I also really enjoy budget and finance and community engagement. So wherever the board feels that I would best serve, I am very happy to put forward my name in any one of those areas.
Okay, so we'll go to the chairs of those committees. Mary first.
Yes, so delighted to welcome Jacqueline. I don't know if you need a motion or not to appoint Jacqueline to the HR committee.
I think this is a point where we would like motion, so it's in the record.
Sure, I would move that Jacqueline King be appointed to the HR committee.
Moved by Mary, second by Linda. Okay, any opposed? Seeing none, you're assigned to HR, Jacqueline. Thank you very much. Now we have Shelley is interested in strategic planning, governance, the budget, or the reach out into the community. On the reach out to the community, as we know, we don't have a lot of activity there right now because of COVID, but that is one of the newer groups that we're forming. Would one of the chairs like to take this on, please? Because I don't want to push from my side. Glenn. Microphone, Glenn. Glenn, yeah. There you go.
Okay, sorry. The finance committee has been myself and Linda, and with a lot of the changes going on, I don't know whether Linda's looked at all, whether she wants to stay on that or not. I have about another 15 months and I will have completed 6 years. So I think having additional help on the finance committee would be a good idea, and would welcome you if you'd like to join us.
Thank you, Glenn. So are you thinking it could be the 3 of you for now, or does one have to step back so it's a 2-person committee? How would you like to frame that? Glenn and then Linda.
Sorry, I have trouble hearing you, Fred.
Glenn. So for now, would you like to have you and Linda and Shelley, or is it is our approach to do 2 people committees? That's been our tradition. But I'll come to Linda. I think she heard that. Linda, would you like to jump on that?
Yeah, and of course, I was on just a ghost when Bruce was going off, and so it would be better if we could get somebody on the Finance Committee as a dedicated member, and then perhaps we could have Shelley also come on to the Governance Committee with me, you know, just to do some of that part-time, because that I think will help as well.
Okay, so it looks like Shelley, you could go on to the finance and the governance piece. Barwan, you wish to speak to that? Barwan, was that
Not really on a different, because Shelley expressed some interest in outreach, and I've been kind of wrestling with the outreach committee, and I've shown a lot of interest in it. Just because it's a new committee and we are starting. I've been trying to put together terms of reference. So kind of established a framework on purpose, mandate, guiding principles, the scope of it, and what's outside the scope, member organizations, and I've been putting some topics underneath that. So if Shelley is interested in community outreach work, I think she'll be really helpful in that aspect, working with, we can take that on.
Very good. So it looks like, Shelley, your wish is going to come true. You're going to be on all 3 of them, but we need a motion for that. Barwan, would you like to make the motion for all 3?
Sure. For all those discussed, I make the motion. Sure.
So your motion would be that Shelley would join the Finance and Strategic Planning and the Outreach Committee.
Yes.
Yeah. Seconded by Linda. Any votes against? Seeing none, you're assigned, Shelley. Congratulations. I think it'll be good, particularly Glenn, because Glenn's on, as you mentioned, an 18-month transition. Anything else on these, Linda? You're still on the lead.
Right, and then it's just for new board orientation. We've got some things that we've tried to get it now onto SharePoint for the most part. So we used to do some of it in person. With COVID, we're not going to be able to do that. So we've got a lot of materials in SharePoint, the old handbook and the old manual, and we're working on the manual, and I'm doing an update to the policy manual. So I can actually go through that, and we can do another, perhaps another session, just the 3 of us, where I can get together and show you where things are and tell you where we are so far. So the 3 of us, the ladies, will get together offline and have a bit of a discussion, and then I'll point you in other directions as well, so we can get you all oriented. There's lots of stuff to read, so don't worry, you won't get bored. We have lots of stuff to go. I heard the Stakeholder Outreach Committee is doing their terms of reference, so that takes care of that one. The only thing we're waiting for, of course, is the mayor's biography for the draft website, but you know, he's working on that like his garden. It's going to blossom at some point in time. So what we've done we had a board retreat workshop in October, and we had some goals, and we've got together a draft website. So when the chief is ready with the department's website, then the board will launch it. And so we've got some draft website materials, and I'll send you all that as well. And we're just waiting for the last biography to come in, as well as yours. So then we'll get to you and Mary working together on your biographies for the website, and we'll have that completed. And then there was just a couple of other. Yeah, Mr. Gardner, so whenever you get your biography done, that would be great. And the next board workshop, likely September rather than June, I think would be a more realistic date, but we should discuss our next meeting date for that workshop. And then just our next meeting for the joint session with the association, and those just are the questions I had for governance.
Very good.
We'll go and chat about that. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I talked over you there. My timing wasn't good, but I've sent several in, but Scott keeps telling me they're no good. I've got to do them again. Sorry, it's a little sense of humor we have on the board here. Okay, next item is 7.3, human resources. Mary, please.
Thank you very much again, Mr. Chair. We had a human resources meeting last week and covered a number of items. You will have seen a memo there, which I should just mention that memo is not on the public website because it does include some, more personal issues. But you'll see that there is a lot of activity going on, and we really appreciate all the good work that is happening with Inspector Douglas and the recruitment. I was particularly impressed now with the new committee that's been formed, READY, which is recruiting, equity, diversity, and inclusion. As you know, that's been a priority for all police boards, and it's really good to see this committee now getting ready. Very interesting that our promotional process is underway for sergeants and staff sergeants, and I gather there's been a very good take-up. It's not complete, so we don't have the results of that. And training, despite COVID, a lot of training has been going on, being done in new ways and in partnerships, a number of partnerships with the Victoria Police as well that seem to be working out. So, Paul, is there anything you'd like to add briefly that you think would be important to highlight that we?
No, Mary, I think you covered it very well.
Okay, well, lots of good things happening there. And we ordinarily, when we have new officers, we have swearing in and board members can attend. Again, because of COVID, that hasn't been possible. But one of these days that will change, and it really is a wonderful opportunity to meet board members. And now civilian staff are also included in those kinds of swearing-ins and promotional ceremonies as well. So they're fully part of the family in that respect as well. And I think there's several items in camera, but we will leave it for that. And would you like me to go on to BCAPB, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please, Mary, 7.4.
Okay. BCAPB just had a virtual conference at the beginning of March, and everyone should have received now the links to the materials. You can actually watch it on what happened online, which is very helpful. I think it worked very well. The technology seemed to work. And they had some interesting sessions, including the session with the minister, which is always good, and the AGM. I don't think there's a lot of new to report, but it's challenging. One of the big things that's going on right now, of course, is the Special Select Committee on Police Reform. And you will see that you have received a copy now of the submission that BCAPB has made. That went in last Thursday or Friday on that. But there's board training opportunities. In addition to what Linda has talked about internally, there's external opportunities as well. And one of them is with the Vancouver Police Board. Stephanie Johansson, who is the executive assistant or executive director actually to the police board, is organizing a session on fair and impartial policing, being undertaken by the same group that does it for officers in BC as well. It's being offered at a cost of $150 per person, and she has offered each municipal police board one seat. It's June the 3rd from 1 to 5 p.m. If not all the other police boards take it up, we might be able to get a second one. So what I was going to suggest is, if any, and I guess my preference would probably be the newer board members. I think it might be most relevant for them, would like and are able to join it. If you could let me know in the next couple of days, and I will pass that on. And I'm assuming that it's okay for us to spend $150, or if we should get two places, $300. Do you want a motion for that, Fred?
Yes, please. But
I
just saw Jacqueline's hand come up. Jacqueline, did you
Sure.
want to speak to, or was it just to say you're interested? You have the floor.
Yes, just that I'm interested. Thank you.
Okay. Shelley, that be something of interest? Shelley.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, Chair.
Okay, so Mary, proceed through.
So we can only confirm one person.
Yes.
We only have one spot. And do you want me to do it by
Mary,
throw all the dice?
Mary, you did allude with a tease there that there may be two if somebody doesn't take an extra seat.
I know. Yes, no, I'll send the second one in. Yep.
So if we do it permissive to two, however you structure it, so it doesn't have to come back to the board if there are two.
Yes. Yes, Judge Shelley. Mm-hmm.
And Mary, I'm happy to if there is one seat, to give it to Jacqueline.
Okay.
So I'm happy to do that.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. That would make it kind of easier at this point. So we'll submit Jacqueline's name, and then we'll submit your name, as hopefully they won't have all the seats taken. Some of the boards may not take up the offer. But could I have a motion to approve sending one, or if possible, two board members to the Vancouver Police Board training on fair and impartial policing on June 3rd at a cost not to exceed $300?
Moved by
I
Glenn.
would so move that be approved.
Okay.
Thank you, Glenn.
Okay.
Second by Linda. Okay, any vote against? Seeing none, it's approved. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Anita.
Now, the other board training opportunity I wanted to raise is with police services. Police services has a number of activities underway. First of all, when the new Surrey Police Board was just in the process of getting organized, they held a 2-day workshop with speakers from across the police boards across BC. I had the opportunity of speaking about hiring and evaluating chiefs. They videotaped the 2 days, and they've made a video, not of the whole thing. And I haven't seen the final one. They are supposed to make it available shortly. They keep saying that. Shortly. So I assume it will be shortly. And once it is available, we can share it with everybody, and you'd have the opportunity to see that. As well, they've offered a 1-hour consultation with David Pilling, and David Pilling is the chief person that we deal with at Police Services. He has kind of a set piece that he wants to use, but he also is interested in any topics that we might like to ask him to speak about. And then we would also have to arrange a date that obviously is convenient both to our board and to him. I was hoping we might be able to do it in May, but I'll ask Anita to, find out from folks what might be possible, and from David as well. But I just would like to alert you if there are some particular topics, and Linda, you might have something in mind too that you would like him to speak about. This is only an hour, so it's not a extensive thing. The other thing is in terms of what time of day works best for people. If you prefer to have it, I don't know how flexible he is, but if you would prefer to have it after 5 or if it could be during the day, that would be helpful to know as well. So I'll ask Anita to find out from everybody possible dates. Is that of interest to everyone to go ahead with that?
Thank you, Mary.
Mm-hmm. And then there are the regular monthly webinars that the next item CAPG puts on. And I think the next one is April 29th about webcams. And I don't know if Anita has sent that out yet or not, but usually she sends it out to find out who's interested. And there's a small cost to it, but it's not very much. And it's in the mornings because it's Eastern time. So usually it's at 9 o'clock our time. And they're usually very helpful. And then they are recorded and you can access them later as well. They're also having 2 governance summits, and I think you've got the material there, one on April 27th and one on June 30th, and they run from 8 a.m. to noon. And again, we would need to know who was interested in attending those. I don't think there's a limit on that. And I don't think Anita sent that out, but keep that in mind too, because that first one is coming up fairly soon. And it sounds as though it would be very, very good. There's a list of the speakers. I think it's all in the material you've received. And all of this you get really lots. There was nothing, and suddenly there's all kinds of stuff going on. There is no confirmed material yet about the annual CAPG. CAPG is the Canadian Association of Police Governance, and that represents all the municipal police boards across the country. They ordinarily have an annual conference in August. And it used to be in person, and it used to be really interesting and lots of fun. But last year it was virtual. They were hoping to do it live this year in Ottawa, but I think it's going to be virtual. But they haven't actually sent out the detailed information, so we may not get that until the May meeting at this point. And then finally, just going back to Bcapb, the submission to the select committee, I forgot to ask if there was any questions on that, but it's gone. And we're not clear yet whether they'll be asked to actually be in person and make a presentation. Hopefully at some time in May or June that will happen.
Well, any questions on the submission to the select committee? When do we think they'll be reporting out on the kind of materials they've gathered, and will there be just a reporting out to say we hear all this, or is there going to be an engagement on the idea?
October. They have to report in October.
But is that report final, or that's where the report get published?
Well, I don't think they'll be doing anything before then. No, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah. Just Mary, a very good summary, and Linda, thank you. For Shelley and Jacqueline, the CAPG and even the Bcapb, it's quite interesting. The seminars I found very helpful, and they are online. So if you have an interest, Mary, can you describe how they would go online and search? And as are now members of the police board, they can have access to past seminars.
That's right. I'd suggest they get in touch with Anita on that, and she can show them how to access them, because
Okay.
she gets them. Mhm.
Very good. Any questions, Jacqueline or Shelley? All good? Okay, shall we move on? Number 8, dogs in parks. Over to you, Scott, please.
Yeah, so for the benefit of our new board members, under the administration division, we have Saanich Animal Control. It used to be called the Pound. It's been renamed, rebranded, new vehicles, different pieces of uniform equipment and so forth. We have 2 full-time animal control officers that work in that section, and we have some auxiliary staff. So they are in charge of enforcing the animals bylaw, 2004 vintage bylaw 8556. And they are civilian employees, QP members who have special municipal constable status. And they patrol the 170 parks in Saanich, as well as a real plethora of animal calls in the municipality. It's very topical with the public for various reasons, especially when you have the on-leash, off-leash, seasonal aspect of various parks. So the mayor had some recent correspondence in relation to dogs in parks and so on. So in the administration division, we have our officer in charge, Inspector Daryl Harris. We have a staff sergeant and a sergeant, and the sergeant in working in that division is Constable or Sergeant Paul Lahowie, who has prepared a brief report today working with the animal control staff. That's included here as an attachment. So he's here to just kind of provide an overview of that and answer any questions that the board may have in that context.
Thank you, Scott. So we're going to get the update first and then have questions.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yes. Yes. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'm Paul Lahowie. I've been a member, just to give you a quick background, I've been a member here with Saanich for about 21 years. And for the past 2 months, since the beginning of February, I've been in as the administrative sergeant. And that's a new position for me. Took over, you might have been familiar with Cordell Phillips. I was his replacement. And one of my duties in here is I'm the direct supervisor of the Officers of the Animal Control. So again, it's been a bit of a learning curve for me, new in the position, like many of you have commented on. So I'm going to try and answer your questions the best I can. So what I have, and this report was prepared by Animal Control Officer Susan Ryan of the division, and she just breaks down sort of the calls for service and the types of calls that they have been attending. In the past month or so, it's come to my attention that we've been getting a lot of emails from citizens around Saanich that are using the parks and complaining about various issues such as dogs off leash, dogs at large, aggressive dogs, various things like that. I read and review all of those reports and speak to the animal control officers on a daily basis. What I have been finding, though, is that from looking at Susan's reports, is that there's been a big change, I think, for the good since last summer to this year. And if you see, I believe it's page 2 of her 3-page report, there's time spent on proactive enforcement. And I think that's a really big ticket item for us, because June of 2020, the removal of deceased animal pickup and disposal was taken off of the plate of animal control officers. And that happening, that duty being removed, gave them so much more time to do proactive enforcement in the parks. So from her stats from January to March in 2020, there was only 11 parks patrolled, and then 25 patrols within those 11 parks. Now, Saanich has a lot more parks than that, including the CRD parks. In 2021, in the same period, this year, from January to March 29th, they patrolled 28 individual parks with 101 patrols in those parks. So our animal control officers are spending a lot more time being visible with the public and conducting enforcement in the park areas. Does anyone have it? Oh, sorry, Chief, I can't hear you, sir.
Sorry, I don't believe that made it in as an attachment. So if I could ask you to just kind of cover off the highlights of that report, that would be helpful.
Certainly, Chief. So the report that I was given, my apologies, I thought that was an attachment for everybody, so I can explain it really quickly. Broken down, we've got calls for service between 2019 to 2021. We've got the types of calls generated for animal control officers. And then those calls are broken down into priorities, much like policing calls, with the most important being a dog attack. And then kind of lower on the spectrum is issues about chicken coops. And then we go to parks with the most service complaints. And the number one are Gyro Beach and Cadboro Bay Beach. Those are where primary concern calls come in, and hence the vast majority of active or proactive patrols take place. And then it goes through Cordova Bay, Mount Doug, Cuthbert Homes, Cedar Hill Golf Course, which includes Riffet Bog, and Beaver and Elk Lake, being CRD and Francis King. I glossed over the time spent on proactive patrol. And under proactive patrol, they also look at school grounds and things. And then another relevant item that came from the animal removal or deceased animal removal being removed from the animal control officers was in 2018, the number of trips to Heartland landfill by our animal control officers to do disposals was 196 trips, averaging 1.5 hours per trip. 2019, 193 trips. 2020, 79 trips, because they stopped doing it in June. And now year to date in 2021, they've attended Heartland Road landfill once. So that's essentially the stats that were prepared. Is there any questions, Ms. Collins?
Thanks very much. It's very helpful. Could you, in fact, have that report sent to the board? I think that would be useful.
Absolutely.
Kind of hard to remember all those stats.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you.
We can't hear you, Fred.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Scott. I wouldn't want that to happen. So this is an area that's had a lot of interest on council, and also a change where the police department is taking on more responsibility in this area for dog licensing. So this report is a sort of a foundational document. Scott, do you just want to mention briefly, because this will come up and it's part of the new approach of the department, how you positioned the department to take more responsibility for dog licenses and dog patrol and took it over from where it was being administered before? Just very briefly.
Yeah, so for the benefit of the new board members, essentially animal control spent a big portion of their time in the past picking up dead animals, which meant going to those calls, retrieving those animals, sometimes having to, if they were severely injured, having to dispatch them, if you will. That then required them from, we've got a very large municipality, to drive to Heartland Road dump, wait in line there, go through, dump the animal, come back, do a report, et cetera, et cetera. So every hour spent doing that was an hour that they're not responding to calls for service in terms of dangerous dogs, dogs loose in the parks, and so on. So working with our staff, our senior officers, the deputies, we met with the CAO and Brent Reams next door, one of the directors in bylaw and enforcement. And we eventually, and the mayor and board was very supportive, council eventually was supportive. And our goal was to move that duty away from the animal control officers and move it over to the district, to Public Works, which was consistent with the other municipalities and what they were doing. Public Works took it on, but decided to outsource it to a company called Victoria Contracting. Needless to say, that is now done, and our Saanich animal control officers no longer have that responsibility. They now can focus their time on calls for service, proactive enforcement of 170 parks and other areas. And also, as part of that enforcement in the parks, they can focus on dog license collection, because you're required to license your dog in the municipality of Saanich. There's a fee structure in place for that. And there's a different fee structure for a regular dog, an aggressive dog, or a dangerous dog. I believe, and Joe can correct me, that normally around $200,000 a year, I believe, is collected in animal control dog license fees. But when you consider the population of Saanich and dog ownership, we believe there's room for improvement in collecting on delinquent dog license fees. So that's something that we are proactively working on through enforcement and small projects, proactively reaching out to people. But we want to work with the district to increase that collection, because collecting those delinquent license fees is a source of revenue. And I believe there's potential to double that source of revenue, if not more, which is significant. So that's one of the things we're working on in terms of return on investment, if you will.
Thank you, Scott. And the other piece from the council side is that it's very interesting. We started off with that first letter that the board would reflect council policies and the department would work. People are the police are the people. In parallel to that work from the department, there was this increased, I would say, community angst about dogs. So this actually worked out to be moving in parallel. And so aside from the fiscal police, it's quite possible that those owners who are not licensing, if they're encouraged to take a license and see the police presence, will therefore perhaps have dogs that are better behaved and under better control. We don't know yet, but we'll see how the data talks to us over the next couple of years. So that was an interesting piece, because it came from the police on one side and it came from the community on the other, and eventually they both arrived at council. So that was intriguing to me as the mayor and also the dual role I play with the police. Scott, I think that's been well covered, and I appreciate all the work you're doing there. Thank you.
And my apologies, Mr. Mayor, that should have been in an attachment. That's on me for not ensuring that was in the board package, but we will have it for the next board meeting for information, and any questions then I can bring back to Paul and his people.
Thanks for picking up on that, Scott, and the board will not bark at you too loudly on that. Okay, so shall we go to number 9, which is a very interesting one. And there's actually reams of information on this, but you've got some summary documents there. We'd spent 2.5 years building an awareness with the province on the need for a new look at our residential road speeds. And this is part actually of a 10-year piece of work, which I was involved in going back to my days in the community, but 2 decades of work at the Union of British Columbia Municipalities, where some municipalities have been asking for a shift where you have highways at 80, collector roads at 50, and residential roads at 50. So the talk was, should residential roads be at 40 or 30? In some of that, some 360 letters later, since I became mayor, the province offered us a pilot study. And then in collecting a community together of representative municipalities across the peninsula, which would, to be in a provincial pilot study, the feeling was it should represent most of the province. And we thought, all the peninsula municipalities would be good. We sent out invitations to everyone, and then we ended up with a 6 municipal collective of North Saanich, Central Saanich, Sydney, Saanich, Oak Bay, and Esquimalt. The others opted out for various reasons. Then Victoria decided to go for 30. So what then happened was our council voted unanimously to go with a 30-kilometre pilot study. We're now in a program to reach out to all the people that agreed to join the previous pilot at 40 to see if they'd be inclined to come in at 30. And we've also written to all the municipalities of the 13 of us that said they weren't ready to come into a pilot to see if they'll reconsider. One example would be View Royal, who already have individual roads signed at 30. Why is the pilot project of interest? It's because if you do a municipal-wide or area-wide change in speed limits on residential roads, you don't have to sign each road. And if we were to do road by road in Saanich, it's something like 1,000 roads, 10,000 signs. So there was a big cost disincentive. But what we've also picked up more recently is a strong will that's identifiable in our community that lives in the residential streets for a slower speeds. What's intriguing is that the data doesn't show that there's actually fatalities or injuries on those streets. They're particularly at intersections or caused by non-speed related factors, distracted driving, intoxicated driving, weather, or equipment of the car or the vehicle. That said, there's this rise of sense of improved livability experiences on the streets. So young mothers pushing their children or walking their children to school, and then separately those who are using different modes of transport, bicycles, e-bicycles, walking, or they call it rolling. They're getting these powered scooters now, etc. So that's where it landed. And so after 2.5 years, we pivoted to go to 30. And we're going along now to see how the province will be in accepting a pilot project. But right now, it's just Saanich and Victoria at 30. One of the unfortunate pieces of this is that Saanich was the lead municipality and was putting forward the administrative skill sets with our engineering staff on the road safety piece. So we're not sure that the others who had committed to 40 will be able to go ahead without us. We're trying to sort that out over the next several weeks. The applications is something called a Part 2 order intake for the province's motor vehicle pilot study. At some point, the province will let us know where that's going forward or not. If there's any questions on this, it was quite the torturous process, but we have landed where we have. Any questions on this? Okay, thank you. I was quite concerned that Jacqueline and Shelley coming in as new board members had this material, so I brought that into today's agenda, although it's past work of the board, just so you're aware of it. And I think the 2 documents that are in there address that, but I can send you a whole bunch more if you'd like some. Scott, any comments from the department?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. So then we'll move on to item 10. This again is an update and a bit of a history here. This will become topical over the next few months as council weighs in and the community weigh in. But the history is in 2015, the BC Lottery Corporation put out a letter called Expression of Interest to the 13 municipalities on the peninsula. We know that on the West Shore, there's the Elements Casino, which is an entertainment gambling enterprise. It's been very successful. It's the police tell us that there's not the problems that one might think are associated. The mayors tell us that it's very well received in their communities, and they get to share something like $2.5 million, which is an amount every year that comes out of a casino through the BC Lottery Corporations to the municipalities, and they share that. Separately, with that kind of activity in the municipalities, BCLC, BC Lottery Corp, is very open to applications from community groups for funding for good works. So with those 2 pieces in place, the only 2 municipalities in 2016 that put their hands up were Saanich and Victoria. BCLC decided to go with Victoria, which was a 5-4 vote. Saanich was a 7-2 vote at the time. Those numbers don't mean a lot to some people, but they're quite important on some of these projects. Some years later, it was decided by Victoria they did not want to proceed. And then in 2019, it was clear that Victoria would not be proceeding. And in March 11th, 2020, BCLC sent a letter to Saanich to say, would you like to re-engage? Ahead of that was a 2019 moment at council where the new council, which I'm a member of, considered the BCLC initial letter and said, yes, we would like to engage in that conversation. But it took an additional year for Victoria to finally confirm with BCLC it was not coming in. So these dates are important to BCLC in the process, but they arrive at 2020 March, and within 2 days of getting that letter, COVID arrived and the bottom fell out of the world. So we've been on hiatus for a year. So it's the responsibility of me as the mayor to pick up that file again as we're coming out of COVID and ask Saanich Council and ask the municipality, where are we in this process in terms of considering? There are pros and cons. There's no doubt about that. This item is coming to Saanich Council with a full report from staff. I believe it's going to be April the 26th. As members of the police board, you may well be asked about this topic, particularly as we get out and engage in the community. There's quite a bit of correspondence, which I've got a big file on, and as it becomes more germane to the topic, I'll be happy to share that information with you. First, are there any questions from the board? Mary, you're muted.
Thanks very much, and thanks for the update, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to confirm the process here. As I understand it, an issue like this is coming to council, so your bureaucracy-led services, I believe, would they be sending it out to all potentially interested and affected departments, including the Saanich Police Department, for feedback? So it would go to Scott. Scott would provide feedback in terms of any implications in terms of public safety and the implications for human and financial resources in the police department?
Correct. That's what
and I assume, Scott, if you felt there were some issues, you would then potentially refer them to the police board.
Yeah, Mary, you're quite correct. That's the normal process. Things that come up through council then generally go through staff there, and then it comes over to us for input from the operational side. And then oftentimes it will bring it to the attention of the board, depending on the issue.
All right. So has this issue come to you at this point?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarity, Mary. Other questions? You have the floor. Mary, you have the floor.
No, that was my question. No.
Okay. Shelley or Jacqueline, any questions on this? Okay.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. No.
Okay, thank
no, Mary covered it very well, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah. Glenn or Bawan, any questions or comments? Okay, Linda. Okay, very good. And there's nothing certain here that we'll have a casino, where it would be, the size of it, etc. But something the two councils have said each and every time is that they want it to be, if you like, not just a casino, but a hotel, maybe a small conference center, and some amenities are built around there, like some Herman's Jazz Club type of features, etc. So council has already put that stake in the ground, and we believe that's what the message is that BCLC have heard, and that's what they're going to be bringing, we believe, to present on the 26th. They're preparing for some of that conversation. That's my update on this. So hearing no further questions, we'll move forward, which brings us to old business, which we've covered off 2 items. Is there any additional old business? Mary.
Yes, sorry, my apologies. I would like to ask if we could just return to the item on CAPG, the training. I realize I should have got a motion from the board if they would like to sign up for the 2 sessions on April 27th and June 30th. There's a blanket price for both sessions, up to 10 people each session, for $600. So if we're 7 on the board, there'd still be 3 spots if people in the department or we wanted to have somebody else join us. It's quite a reasonable fee, I think. But I think we should have a motion and then get Anita to sign us up.
Okay, motion from the floor, please.
So I would move that the Saanich Police Board approve paying the registration fees for the CAPG training conferences on April 27th to June 30th at a total cost not to exceed $600.
Hi, Mary. I did see Linda's hand, but I'll go with Glenn because you raised your hand after the full motion was there. Any vote against? Hearing none, Anita, let's record that approved, please. Any other business from this agenda or old business? Then let's go to adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn on date of next meeting? Linda moved May 4th at the same time, same place. Seconded by Jacqueline. Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, this open meeting is now adjourned. Scott, do we need to take a moment while we go into in camera?
Yes, please.
Yeah.